Welcome to the Hip Hop Hustle podcast. I'm with one of the guests I've been extremely excited to talk to for quite a while now. I think we've had this booked for a couple of weeks, and I've just been kind of amping myself up. But I've got the great Jon Connor with me. He is the CEO of the Varsity Music Group. He's literally worked with legends in the industry, and when I say legends, I mean legends. He's worked with some of my favorites, Royce to 5'9". He's worked with Game. He's worked with Locksmith. He's worked with obviously Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg. The list literally goes on and on. Double XL Freshman of the Year cover in 2014. So literally, a list of accomplishments. But it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Man, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much. I am truly humbled to be here, man.
Well, man, how do you look back on everything that you've done in your music career? I mean, when you start, it's like, compared to where you are now, how do you bridge that gap? Because when you start, it's like a dream, all these things that you've done, but how do you look back on it all?
I actually don't look back on it all, man. It's only in interviews or in conversations where other people bring it up that I actually look back on things, because, it reminds me of, I think it was Denzel Washington said in an interview one time, they asked him, what does he think his greatest role has been, or the best role he's ever portrayed? And his answer was the next one. And, that meant a lot. It was like, okay, just always keep looking forward. Whatever you did in your past, always strive to do better, or set new goals, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, so for me, it's like anything that ever happened in my past was a lesson, and I learned from it, and it just made me better to keep going. So I hardly even listen to my old music. I don't listen, like, after something is done, I just keep going. I just keep looking forward, and so that's how it is for me, man. Like, it truly is. I seldom ever look back on anything. I just look at it as it was a part of my journey, and I'm just ready to see what's next. I want to try to outdo whatever I've done in the past, man.
It's so interesting because people have said to me that they fuck with their own shit. Like, they listen to their own music, even stuff that's years old. But, because I feel like that's the cool thing to say, is like, I still listen to my own music. Like, personally, I don't listen to my own podcast. I edit it and I have these conversations, and listening to me, my own voice again, would drive me crazy. But why do you think it is that rappers always say, or whether they do or don't, I'm not sure, but do you know rappers who listen to their own music a lot?
Well, you know what? I can only speak on me, but it's cool to enjoy your own art, to enjoy your own music. But for me, my answer is quite practical, man. It's the fact that after working on it for so long, and I hear my voice all day talking to people, and it's just, you get tired of hearing your own voice, you know what I'm saying? Or at least I do. And then I'm so critical. I would say that I'm a perfectionist to an extent, that I'm always listening to music and thinking about how it could be better, or what I could have done, or, ooh, I wish I would have did this, or I wish I would have did that. So, I don't listen to a lot of my old music, and I don't know, like I said, to your general question, there's nothing wrong with listening to your own music. I'm not trying to shit on it and say that it's bad to listen to your own music. It's just me personally, my preference, that I just can't. I just don't. Like, another dope quote, I think it was director Joel Schumacher, man. He said that the art is only yours while you're creating it. After it's yours, it belongs to the people. So more than just me being sick of my own voice sometimes, or being overcritical about myself, I think that that's the biggest reason I don't listen to my own music, because I had fun with it and I enjoyed it while I was in the studio making it, while I was having the ideas, while I was in the creative process of, oh, I should add this, or I should do this, or I should say this, or whatever. So then when I give it to y'all, when I give it to the people, it's yours. Like, think about it like this, man. Like, let's say we can pick any artist, let's say you had a favorite Kanye West song, and then you went up to Kanye West and you was like, yo, my favorite song of yours is Good Life. And then he said, I hate Good Life. That would totally change your perspective. That would be selfish of me to take the joy that you have from that song away from you by me being critical. So, like, if you like, Connor, I really love this one song of yours, and then I totally was like, yeah, well, I could have turned the bass up, or my vocals could have been better. You like, damn, I just wanted to enjoy this moment with you. So my favorite songs of mine are whatever yours are. Whatever the next person or supporter that comes up to me and tells me they love my music, that's my favorite song. And so I don't knock people that do listen to their own stuff, but it's like I can't. It's like once I'm finished with it, I did it, it's done, it's yours now. It's your song, it's your music. You know, it's about what you enjoy. So that's just my preference, man.
That's such an interesting perspective. No one's actually said that, but I actually really agree with you, because I think that's the best way to go about it. Because you either get caught in one of two worlds. You get caught in reflecting and too much or critically analyzing what you did in the past, and you have no control of what's out there. Or even if you did a really good job, you're then comparing yourself to what you did. And so, you know, you see all these artists, especially early, they go platinum or they go gold or whatever, they have a lot of success. Then they compare it to what they did before and they just can't get there. And then it throws them off the rails. But I mean, for you, how do you control, because you said you're very self-critical and you're like self-analyzing, and how do you control that without going overboard?
My people in my company, Big Steve and Lindsay, might say that I do go overboard and it does get out of control, and they got to reel me back in, man. Sometimes you got to reel me back in, because I will overanalyze and overthink, because sometimes you want to stay true to whatever it is that made people like your music in the first place, right? So to an extent, you gotta figure out, well, what is it that I'm doing that people are connecting to, right? And then you get to a point where it's like, well, maybe they're just connecting with the authenticity of the music. So then these thoughts are going through my head. It's like, was there a certain sound, or is it a certain production that people like to hear me over? Or is it, you start thinking of all of these things, and that gets in the way of being creative. So sometimes I can go overboard and I can overthink, but I like to give credit to the people around me, man. Ace Cabana, Big Steve, Lindsay, like AVM, my staff at all Varsity Music Group, because they have to reel me in and be like, yo, it's dope. It's done. Put it out. You know, this shit is dope. But I have those moments where I can go overboard and obsess. But it's just that without talking for too long on this particular question, it's you know, being around Dr. Dre for 5 years, you know, there were you know, that was like being in a master class of, like, you know, a school or an academy, you know, Aftermath University, like being around him and watching just the different ways that he broke down how to listen to music, or what you're listening for, or how to create those moments and emotions within the music. Like being around somebody for 5 years, a little bit of that starts to rub off on you. So it's like, then you start to become super critical of your music. Like, did I give them those moments? Did I maximize the potential of each, you know, part of this record? So, you know, there are those times where I go overboard, but I like to thank the people around me for reeling me back in, man.
Well, now that you bring up Dr. Dre, because I'm sure everyone asks you about Dre all the time, and you must be at some point tired of talking about it. But did you find, like, those parts where he was breaking every track down, did you find that difficult to go that far in depth into finding the real nitty gritty stuff that he was picking on?
It wasn't difficult for me. It was almost like an aha moment, because when I was making music just with my friends prior to getting signed, you know, in my mother's basement in Flint, Michigan, I used to have similar thoughts. But then the people around me at that time would be like, you overthinking, or you thinking too much. Then when I met Dre and I saw that he thought at the same in like ways like that I did, it was almost like I felt like I wasn't crazy. You know what I'm saying? It was like, oh shit. So I was right. Like I was right in looking at things in this way. So when he would break down certain things in my head, I would be like, that's what I thought. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what the fuck I thought. You know, it was like almost confirmation that I wasn't crazy, just that I was on a certain path of trying to get to a certain level of greatness creatively that most people don't aspire to get to. And you're gonna get looked at like you're crazy. You're gonna get looked at like something's wrong with you. You're gonna have people around you telling you that you think too hard, or you think too much, or they don't understand. You know, that's a part of what it is to aspire to that level of achievement. But it was like, yeah, when I was around Dre, it wasn't difficult to understand it. It was like I took to it to a fish, like a fish to water. It was like it actually made sense to me. It was like these were all the things that I was trying to explain to the people back home, but they just didn't understand. And then when I finally got around Dre, it was like getting around Yoda, and I was like Luke Skywalker or something. And I understood completely why everything was necessary and why he was breaking things down the way that he did.
Well, I mean, because you were on with Dre for a long time. Like, I think it was 5 years. Is that right?
Yeah.
How was that?
5 years, man. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to be around someone so kind of, like you said, Yoda, like, especially in hip hop, his legacy almost speaks before he even utters a word. But how did you find that overall experience? I know you said you got a lot from it in terms of learning from him, but how was it in terms of creatively for you to, because you didn't release any projects over that period of time. What happened there?
I think that because you asked two questions in that, so I want to make sure I answer both of them. So how was the overall experience? It was just like anything else in life. I think that life itself is balanced, and you're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days. I learned a lot of great things. I learned a lot of lessons, and I don't necessarily believe in bad, because I believe anything that happens to you that's perceivably bad is a lesson that you're supposed to learn from. My father always told me everything is a teachable moment. But I learned the music business the hard way. I learned being creative the hard way. I learned work ethic the hard way. And that's the way I like it. Being from Flint, Michigan, we love to work hard. We love to learn, So it was the experience overall is often compared to high school or college. You had good days in college. In high school, you had bad days. But overall, the experience made you a better person. So my experience overall, it was such a great time in my life because, like I said, it taught me new things. It gave me clarity, and it gave me confirmation on just a lot of things within myself as an artist, to follow my instincts, to, if I believe in something, not question it. Surround yourself with people that are going to feed your spirit in a positive way, to feed your creative juices in a positive way. Keep people around you that are inspired and that are creative. Stay away from negative energy, all of that type of stuff, was what I learned from. And I look at it like, and I'm a highly spiritual person. So sometimes, I'll give you an example. Sometimes you could go into the studio with somebody and y'all don't get a song done that day, but maybe y'all had a really great conversation that inspires a song that you're going to create next week. So sometimes the studio and music is the bait that lures you into the scenario that teaches you the lesson that you're going to need to use later in life. So the way I look at the album Vehicle City that I created while I was at Aftermath is like, okay, maybe I thought at the time, okay, I'm over here to make this album, which I would have loved to put that album out. I put a lot of hard work into it, a lot of time into it, but maybe on a spiritual level, it's like, yo, maybe the album was the bait for you to get over here to learn these lessons. Because when I first got there, I was very naive when it comes to the music business. Like, it was a lot. I cared so much about the creative part that I think that I suffered and lacked at caring about the business aspect of it. And while being at Aftermath, there was a lot of lessons that I learned business wise. There was a lot of missteps that I made that I would never make again. And there was also, like I said, confirmation and clarity of things creatively that I learned while I was at Aftermath. So maybe in hindsight, the album was to get me to be around the Dr. Dre's, the Snoop Doggs, and all of these type of people, the Marsha Ambrosias, the certain legal people that I was around, DJ Paul from 3 6 Mafia, Kelly Price, all of these legends that I met during that time period. Maybe the creation of that album was just for me to have certain conversations that I could use now to put that knowledge into my company, or Varsity Music Group. And so that's how I look at it, man.
That's such a good outlook on it. Like, it's such a, like, what impresses me about you, other than obviously you as an artist, is your positive outlook on everything that happens. There's always a positive to it, and that you can take a lesson from it, and that you're not going to get bogged down by a difficult period.
Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that, man. It's not, look, It ain't always easy, but you know what I'm saying? But yes, that is my outlook, that everything is a teachable moment. You know, we can look at something, you know, it's that old adage that, you know, the glass is either half full or half empty. I'm a half full guy. I'm an Aries, you know, and you know, I don't know how deep, you know, you are or your listeners are into astrology and stuff like that, but I do look at, you know, astrological signs as a part of what makes us who we are as well. And so it's like, just Aries, naturally, we are naturally optimistic people. So, you know, we go through these things and they make us stronger. And, you know, you can either take something and let it make you depressed and give up on yourself, or you could let it make you stronger and strive. Like, I look at it like, while I was at Aftermath, I was exposed to so many things. Like, man, it was the first time I was ever on a private jet. You know, it was the first time that I was ever seen mansions in Malibu and seen $1 million cars and that type of thing. And so the way I look at it is, I always tell my artists, and I tell anybody who will listen, if you can touch it, you can have it. So like I said, creating that album might have just been what was supposed to lure me into that situation in order for my eyes to see what was possible for me to have, you know, to be around a Dre and to understand, you know, the ups and the downs of how I should be as a mentor to younger artists, you know, to take certain things and apply it to my life, or to look at just how certain things were done or things that I felt like could have been better or whatever, and put all of that into my life and then just build and grow off of that. So I am not that guy that sits in the fucking house and believes the woe is me. I have those days and I'll shake it off and then I'll keep going, because everything is a teachable moment. And as long as you got air in your lungs, man, you have every day you have an opportunity to create your new reality. So if something don't go your fucking way, okay, it didn't go your way that day. But as long as you wake up the next day, you got another opportunity to make it go your way.
I agree. And I think there's a period of like, you should be able to recognize your emotions and recognize how you feel, but then it's important to learn how to go, okay, I've done that, and now it can't wreck tomorrow, or it can't wreck next week or next month or next year. Like, at some point you just have to get back up. And I think we as humans, and I think we accept sometimes that people just are in a bad place for too long before we're like, all right, you need to step up. And I think those lessons, I mean, that you've learned definitely apply to a lot of people.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think you said something that was very teachable too. It's nothing wrong with grieving a situation or, you know, or whatever, but don't stay there too long. That's the thing. We all are human. Nobody is just invincible. And because that's not healthy if you don't take in some of the negative things that happen to you and grieve it. But the unhealthy part is staying there too long. So I commend you for that. So, and thank you for that, man.
Well, I had this conversation literally this morning, funnily enough, at the gym, but I said that, you know, men as society hasn't taught us to embrace our emotions. And, you know, I can say that in Australia, it's probably in the US as well, but like, it's very difficult for men to, especially, you know, growing up 20, 30 years ago, that's when you were a kid, to now it's more accepted to actually go, instead of pushing all of that down and letting it come out in negative ways, it's good to just let it out so that you can accept it and move on.
I 110% agree. And I love that the world is moving in that direction, because that would be unhealthy and inhuman to not express those emotions when you have those down times. Like, man, with me, and to anybody listening to this, man, like, take those moments for yourself, because they're needed. Like, especially on my journey, I've endured a lot. So it's some days that I might just have a cry day. Like, you know what I'm saying? Where I'll just have a day. Fuck it. I don't want to hear from nobody. I'm cutting my ringer off. I'm gonna cry it out. I might make some music. The record that I just put out, the video, To Whom It May Concern, I cried while I was making the beat. It was times where I had teared up when I was saying the words that was coming out, and people that are listening to it are saying that they could hear the emotion in the record because it was like that. So I believe in that, and I've always believed in that. You know, a wise person once told me, grieve it and leave it. Make sure you take that time to grieve it. And after you done, whether you're going to cry for a day or cry for a week, get that shit out. Like, if you got to scream in a pillow, put a pillow over your face and go, like, whatever you're going to do, get it out and then recharge and keep going. So yes, it's a very human thing. we wouldn't have tear ducts, and we wouldn't be, if we weren't supposed to cry, we wouldn't have been born with the ability to cry. So apparently it has a purpose in our lives. It's to release, it's to get it out. So ain't nothing weak about crying. I think that it's weak when people act like they don't cry. I think that it's weak when people act like, oh, that didn't bother me. Yes, it did. You know what I'm saying? It did. So just embrace it, grieve it, and leave it, man.
Also, you feel better after crying. Like you actually
Hell
legitimately
yeah.
feel better. That's what no one ever tells you. Like you hear your mom,
Right.
my mom told me like you feel better, or like girlfriends told me, but then until you do it yourself, you don't really know how much better it is, because you just, it's like this, all this tension and all this, it just got let out. It's like it literally poured out of you.
Absolutely. I 110% agree. Absolutely.
Well, one more question about the Dr. Dre experience, and then I'll ask you a few others.
Sure.
You remember the feedback they told you? Because I'm sure you wanted to release the project.
Right.
Did they tell you why they were like, you know what, it's not ready? Like, what was their explanation?
Honest answer, I still don't know to this day. It's a mystery. It's a question mark over it. And I always look at it like this. While I was signed to them, whatever I created was owned by Universal Music Group, Interscope, Aftermath. So to me, I looked at it like this. This music is yours to do what you will with it. You know, so that's why I don't get too hung up on what happened or why, because it was like, I got signed to create music. I did that. And so whatever you do with it after I create it is your business. So Universal Interscope Aftermath has a whole hard drive of Jon Connor music that's just in the archives, but it's theirs. You know what I'm saying? It's theirs to do. It's like, you know, if you buy any piece of art, it's yours. You know, it's like that guy that it's like that dude that bought the Wu-Tang, the unreleased Wu-Tang album.
Literally,
you know,
that
his.
came to mind. That was when you said that, that was the first example that came to my head. Is like, yeah.
Yeah, and like, you know, people ask that dude like, why don't you release it? Well, it's his. He can do it. I guess he can do whatever he want to do. Not, I don't get into right and wrong, you know, not to say, who's to say if it's right or wrong, you know, but it's like Vehicle City is owned by Interscope, Aftermath, Universal, and it's theirs to do what they want to do with it. I'm an artist, so I'm going to do what an artist is supposed to do, and that's keep creating. And I think, you know, that music represented where I was at that time. But I think that now moving forward with my company, like I look forward to just giving people this new music full of the new energy and the new space and all of the lessons that I've learned because of my journey. Like I'm just anxious to give y'all the new music. So it's like, you know, that album was a cool moment in time. But now for me, it's like I'm looking forward to just giving y'all everything like where I'm at spiritually now, man, and creatively and artistically now.
I think the fans are keen to see you get back and kind of find where you are right now. And I see on the YouTube comments that everyone's like, you know, Jon Connor's back, the people's rapper, he's back. You know, it must feel so good to have, you know, fans also recognizing that, you know, they've missed you, and, you know, they had tastes of like, you know, what you did on Compton, and like people still know that you had the talent and the success and the hard work, but now that you can release music kind of unfiltered in the sense that it's all yours, you own it, that now I think people are like getting excited again.
Yeah, and I'm just as excited as them. It feels so good to be back in control of my destiny. Like I said, I'm an Aries, so we're kind of like impulsive, you know, people that just like, if I want to drop a song tomorrow, I would like to be able to drop it. And so I think that I would never just shit on major labels or nothing like that. But I think that that system works for some artists because a lot of the work gets done for you. And it's kind of like, you know, they have these plans for you, and you really don't have to do too much thinking when you're on a major label, right? But I like being in control of my destiny. I like working hard. I like putting the work in. So it's just that being on a major just wasn't for me. And it's for some people and it's not for other people. I'm inspired by cats like Tech Nine, you know what I'm saying, who has strange music, and he found his fan base, found his niche, and is able to feed his family, sell out shows and festivals and all of that. I look at, you know, back in the day with Hobson and Funk Volume and what they were able to do. I look at Currency. I look at artists like that. I look at Dizzy Wright. I look at my peers. I look at my man Chris Webby and what he's doing with his company ADHD. It's like these are all independent labels and independent artists who are able to become multimillionaires from servicing their fan base. It's like I learned that I'm not that artist, that I'm not like a club artist. Like, I don't even know if I want to hear Jon Connor when I'm in the club. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't think that I'm that type of artist. But okay, I would love to hear Migos in the club. I would love, because those are those type of artists. You know what I'm saying? Or Cardi B or whatever. It's a lane for that. But I don't think that that's the type of artist that I am. I've figured out who I am, what I am, and I just want to service those people that enjoy what I do. So I don't want to have to sell my soul trying to make the biggest song on TikTok. If I just so happen to make a song that pops off in some of these social media circles, that's cool. But I don't get in the studio and let that drive what makes me that isn't the creative force or creative drive behind what I'm doing. I just want to connect with the people. I want to help people through my music. I am the people's rapper in the sense that I don't have a problem showing my vulnerability. I don't have a problem with talking about things that are personal to me, because I know every human goes through similar situations. We've all experienced heartbreak. We've all had friends that have turned on us. We've all had issues with our parents from time to time. We've all had just certain things that we've all went through. Everybody ain't happy all the time. Everybody's not sad all the time. So I like to show that growth through my music, and I'm just as happy as they are. I don't often read credit of the comments, man. But my assistant, Lindsay, she was like, you should read some of these. And I'm like, okay, cool. And when I did, I actually teared up. It's going to sound like I just be crying all the time. Look, y'all, I don't just be crying all the time. But she said, you should look at some of these. And I did tear up, because they felt my emotion and they felt the way that I feel. Is I miss the people. I missed giving my art to the people just as much as they miss hearing it. And I'm just looking forward to rebuilding, rebranding, and growing my audience, man. And I just thank everybody for appreciating and liking what I do. And I hope that everybody's willing to take this ride with me. I guess this is like chapter 2 of the Jon Connor saga. It's like the pre record deal and then post record deal Jon Connor career. And I'm just looking forward to it's like on the song To Whom It May Concern, it says sometimes you got to go away to come back. And I'm just appreciative and grateful for everybody for rocking with me. And I'm just gonna make sure I pour my heart into everything I do as my way of saying thank you.
Well, in the hero's journey, they always have, in every film, they come back from adversity. That is the recipe for success. So I think you've nailed this narrative for it, and now you're on definitely the right path. I actually have like 2 questions that are completely opposite in my mind. I'm choosing one and then I'll go back to the other. But you mentioned,
before you ask me that question, can I say one thing?
Yeah.
To anybody listening to this who is a Jon Connor fan and has ever been a Jon Connor fan, just know there was never a time where I didn't want to give you music. There was never a time where I got lazy or uninspired or anything like that. Like, there was never, just know I always wanted to give y'all music, and I never wanted to go away. So as a result of that, I will never, knock on wood, ever go on hiatus again. So I just want to say thank y'all, because it was certain times that maybe fans of mine didn't know exactly what was going on, but just know there was never a time that I didn't want to be giving you guys music. So I just appreciate you. But go ahead.
I love that. We'll have to clip that out and post that as a preview of our chat. But yeah, one of the questions that I had was about the business side of it, because I feel like you're definitely right that a lot of artists, they start their music career in the hope to be a successful artist, whatever that looks like, but they're not aware of what the music industry really is. Do you feel like if there would be an education tool on, what that actually is, what are the skills you need? How do you, manage, recording contracts? How do you manage contracts in general? Do you feel like there is room for that kind of growth and development that's accessible for young artists?
Well, absolutely. The funny thing, not trying to just plug my own shit, but for my artists that I work with on my company, All Varsity Music Group, every Sunday we do industry etiquette class. And I teach them all of the things that I wish someone would have taught me when I was coming into the game. And hopefully the more established I get, the more people that I can invite to this, and maybe I could do seminars. But I do think that there should be an industry etiquette class for anyone trying to get into the music business. I had a friend of mine, my ex-partner, former NBA player Mateen Cleaves, he told me that when you go to the NBA, there's a whole class that they give NBA players their rookie year, like that teaches them how to deal with finances, that teaches them how to properly deal with groupies, that teaches them how to deal with, yeah, that's necessary. You know what I'm saying? I think that there should be that. And I think that that's one of the flaws about the music industry, is that a lot of times, especially in hip hop, you're dealing with people that are coming from poverty stricken areas, and they'll do anything to get out of poverty. So they don't want to read nothing. They don't want to know anything. It's just like, okay, this person is offering to give me more money than I ever had in my life, and I'll do anything to get out of the ghetto. I'll do anything to get out of the hood. And so now they are subjected to manipulation from people that understand the business more than they do. And what happens with that is those people that manipulate them are like, okay, we'll take you and we'll use you for a couple years, and you don't know anything. So we're going to take the majority of the money that you're supposed to make, and we'll throw you back into the ghetto. And now we'll find the next unsuspecting young person that comes from poverty. We'll do the same thing to him. And when we're done with him, we'll throw him back. You know, so I do think that there's room for some sort of industry etiquette, or some sort of arts center, or some sort of form of education that artists should go through. Because if you want to be a lawyer, you can go to law school. You want to be a dentist, you know what I'm saying? There's dental school. You want to be a doctor, there's medical school. There's absolutely no education whatsoever for music. You come right off of the street with your wide eyes and dreaming big, and there's so many people that know more than you, and they've seen you coming a million times over, and there's no education for artists. So it's like I said, part of the music industry, what I learned is manipulation is like 80% of the music business. People that know more than you and use what you don't know against you. And then before you know it, you've mishandled your money, you've mishandled your fame because you thought it was going to last forever. And now you're trying to figure it out again. So like I said, what I'm starting to do, and change starts with self. So what I do with my artists at All Varsity Music Group, like I said, every Sunday, we do industry etiquette class where we talk about contracts. I actually show them my contracts that I signed with Aftermath, and what I signed at different management deals that I've had in my life, so they can see what an actual contract looks like. The first time you see a contract in the music business, it's fucking overwhelming.
They're fucking
you
thick.
know
They're real thick, and they're complicated. It's because I actually did a commerce law degree. So I went to uni, and I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, only to realize I didn't want to be a lawyer at all. But I remember studying contracts, and every contract is complicated as hell. They're all complicated. They got point A, point 1A, point 1B, and it's using extremely formal legal language that is not like you and I talking, where it's like we can have a conversation. So you need somebody to like spell it out for you, because it places like words that really don't make sense in the words, and they're long sentences. It's not like sentence. It's a paragraph, which is in fact a sentence. But I think, and to your point, they do teach music at universities, and they do teach music, but they don't teach the business of music. They teach music theory and how to be a good artist, but they don't teach you how to combine that with, all right, what's the commerce side of it? And I think that's what's missing. And, the good thing about the NBA is that it's one organization. So they have a duty of care to all their players. Whereas the music industry, it's a bunch of organizations trying to get to the top, and they're using artists to get to the top.
I 110% agree. You said it. Like, bro, you need an interpreter for contracts in the music business. With contracts in general, like you said, it's not worded how you and I actually speak, and all of this is intentional. You know what I mean? It's intentional so that you have to pay the lawyer who is actually in cahoots with the label, who's actually in cahoots with this other entity. Like, you know what I'm saying? And everybody's progressing from your lack of knowledge, information, and your lack of intelligence about the situation. So, you know, like I said, I do industry etiquette class, and the more, you know, the more I gain ground and the more I grow, the more I want to start opening up my industry etiquette class to more people, not just my artists, but just people in different cities and different states, because that's so important. Everybody can, you know, if you're creative, you can make music until you blue in the face, but the goal is to be able to sustain, to be able to take care of your family, to be able to turn your art into financial freedom to where you can take care of your mother, your kids, your whoever needs it. And a lot of the music business I learned is that the people who are already in position stay in position, and they can manipulate the people that don't know any better. And the rich stay rich, and the poor think they're rich for a second and then end up back in poverty.
It's all perspective. It's like you're rich compared to what you had, so the deal looks good. So you've never seen, you know, that many zeros on a check, and then you see the zeros, and then you're like, I've made it. And then you live with the label and you haven't made it at all. And for anyone who doesn't believe us, lawyers have lawyers. No lawyer represents themselves in court. Anyone who represents themselves is fucked, because if a lawyer gets a lawyer, then you can guarantee that you need a lawyer as well. So never sign a contract without getting a lawyer to read it. An independent lawyer, not the lawyer at the label, because they're going to tell you it's all good. That's
exactly.
I mean, and it sounds like common sense when we say it like this, but literally you're right. They take advantage of the desperation that, you know, you've been working for however long. You were maybe 10 years old when you started wanting to be a rapper. You've been working on that dream. You're now 25 and you get a deal that's 15 years in the making, and you're like, whatever it takes, and you just sign it because that's the dream.
That's the dream. And isn't that part of the big machine? It's like, ever since we were kids, every movie we ever saw, there's the scene in the movie where the musician gets the record deal and it's the greatest moment of their life, right? And it's almost intentional that there's no portion of the movie that talks about them having to get a lawyer. It's, yes, such and such signed us. And so you grow up watching that in every film you ever saw about music, and every story or biography you've ever seen. Getting signed was the best moment of my life. That is the way it's portrayed. So these little details, and it is a good thing. It can be. But I think that those little, you know, they say the devil's in the details. It's the details that you're leaving out that can either, you know, build or destroy a life. You know, so I think that it is super important for us to care, or at least somebody in my position that has been through it all in the music business to care enough. You know, it's an old expression, each one teach one. I do believe that if I have knowledge and I see certain people going through a certain path that I've been through, I think that it's a sin, and I think that it's wrong if you turn your head and don't at least try to educate somebody on something that they didn't know, because then that would just make me as bad as the industry, the parts of the industry that I dislike.
I agree. And the thing about movies is no one wants to see you talking to a bunch of lawyers. It's not sexy. No one, right. You know, imagine a movie where 30 minutes is you talking to lawyers and going, hey, who do you represent? And they just talk about, you know, just legal jargon. It's like there's a show, Suits. Have you seen Suits? It's like it's about,
I've heard of.
So it's just lawyers, right? But they don't do what lawyers do. They run around and they investigate crimes, and it's like lawyers sit in offices and do paperwork. And I remember watching it as like a teenager going, oh, that'd be cool to be that type of lawyer. It's not what lawyers do. They only show you the sexy stuff that you think lawyers do, like represent people in court. I object, all that shit. It's none of that. It's none of that.
Facts. I 110% agree. It is the exact same way with being an artist. Absolutely.
Well, one of the other question that I had that has been sitting in my mind ever since you said that you were an Aries was, I'm interested to know what you think of the album Aquemini, purely because, you know, I assume because you are interested in obviously star signs and they're using their star signs and kind of out of the blue, but do you have an opinion on that? Because they're obviously, you know, two very unique characters, but they're also in tune with their own astrology as well, obviously by the name of the album.
Classic album, and it was a great representation of who they are, because as you can see, when you just look at both of them, when you just look at a picture of both of them, you could just see how different they are. You know what I'm saying? And I think that it always has reflected through their music. I thought that in that album, classic. It's nothing more I can say. Classic album. I've always been inspired by Outkast, man. Classic. And my artist Ace Gabbana, like, he's super inspired by Outkast. When we started, because I produced like 90% of his album. So the way when I produce albums, I want to get into the artist's head. And so when we had the first conversation about his album, I said, well, where are we going with this? He said, bro, I grew up listening to Outkast. I love Outkast. And so, and Aquemini was one of the albums that he told me to listen to, you know, when thinking about creating for his album. So nothing but respect for Outkast, man.
Well, because I actually reviewed it recently, because I hadn't listened to it. I didn't grow up with it, and I listened to it when I was like 16. It went over my head. Like, I just didn't appreciate it for what it was. I think I was too young to really understand.
Right. It's when I got older, I listened to it. When I was that age, when it actually first came out, I was listening to Cash Money and No Limit. I was listening to Tupac, Jay-Z. Like, far as hip hop goes, like, yes, I was listening to the bounce and the flashy stuff. Then when I got deeper into musicianship and started becoming an artist myself, then I started getting deeper into like Organized Noise and Outkast.
Well, literally, I think that's a quote from Andre. It'll go over your head now, but you'll catch on later. That was literally my experience with the album. And an artist, Carl Lucas, that was his favorite album, so we reviewed it together. But yeah, I think it's what I like the most about it is how they are in tune with themselves, that they don't represent themselves other than who they are. And especially like together, they're almost polar opposites. Andre 3000, Big Boy, they don't try to be, oh, we're the same person. They're literally like, Andre is completely different, Big Boy is completely different, but together we literally work together the best, and we got each other's backs. And I love that message just in general for everyone and in the music industry.
Absolutely. I 110% agree, man. Absolutely.
Well, what was the challenge starting your own music company? I always find that interesting, like from making the decision to go, all right, I want to start my own label, I want to support my own artist, but what are the challenges to have the idea and then actually take it to a place where, you know what, I'm actually doing it?
Well, the funny thing is that when I started rapping, I started with the intention of having my own label, because I was really inspired, like I mentioned a little second ago, by Master P and his story of being an independent artist, and then just bringing his city sound to the forefront by putting on all of those artists from New Orleans. I think the toughest part is dealing with artists. You know what I'm saying? Because artists have what's the best way I can put this? Is sometimes you might have a really talented artist, but they still have some maturing to do spiritually and am I still there?
Yeah, you're still here.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had a phone call.
We're good.
But dealing with artists, because they can be, you know, just immature in different ways. And this journey of being an artist, it is truly that. It's a journey. And for some people, it's long. And for some people, it happens like that. You know what I mean? But it's different for everybody. And sometimes artists can get to looking at other artists and comparing themselves to other people's journey. Well, if I make this type of song, then I should blow up overnight because that's what happened to that person. No, you don't know where that person is mentally. Maybe that person is a little more educated in the business. Maybe that person is a more likable person. Maybe that person has a bigger personality. Maybe that person, you never know why someone else's journey goes the way it goes and yours goes a certain way. So I think the toughest part is just dealing with the different personalities of artists, because everybody's at a different space. Everybody's at a different place in their individual journey. And you have to try to sell an artist on understanding, like, it's not just about the music. You know, it's not just about the music. It's about, you know, how you conduct yourself. It's about the business. It's about, you know, setting yourself apart. It's about You know, do you want to just be one of these fly by night artists, or do you want to have longevity? You know, it's about so much more than just making a song, putting it out, and blowing up. And so I think that for me, the most difficult part has been trying to convey that message to younger artists of just slow down, enjoy the journey, take time to learn, take time to build, take time to grow, find your sound. Don't just listen to the radio, try to create that and think that that's what's going to change your life. Take time to find yourself, then put yourself into your art, and you'll have a fan base that's going to rock with you forever.
And for those that don't know, we booked this for 5 p.m. and Jon was here 5 p.m. on the nose. And yes. If you don't know, it's very difficult to get rappers to be on time. It's not exactly a strong suit of artists. They tend to like go with the flow. But so definitely, I think that people underestimate the professionalism in terms of what a successful artist look like. I mean, you work with Dre. I'm sure Dre is the same. He has very strict things that he wants, and he treats his job very, you look at Jay-Z, you look at 50 Cent, you look at anyone who's made a successful career, they have very meticulously gotten to where they're at. They're not just randomly getting there. And I'm talking about longevity, like a long career. Sometimes you blow and you get big, and it's like right timing, right music, right sound, right people hear it, and it just explodes. But to have a long career, that professionalism is definitely part of it.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to say too, a lot of times, because of course I was signed to Aftermath for 5 years, like a lot of people just associate with me with Dre, but it's so many other legends that contribute to me learning those type of lessons. Like I have to always shout out my big brother EA Ski. I have to shout out DJ Paul of 3-6 Mafia. I have to shout out Kelly Price. I'm trying to think of all of the other people that really, my man KLC from Beats by the Pound, Fiend from No Limit, International Jones. Like all of these people were played a part in just teaching me about that professionalism, just as much as Dre. And in certain areas, like were, super influential on my career. Like, and I think all of them taught me different things that I hold on to. So like I say, it's dope because yes, I was on Aftermath, but it was a lot of other legendary people that kind of took me under their wing. Just Marsha Ambrosia taught me professionalism. My man DJ Silk. I'm really trying to remember just everybody. Anybody that I forget, blame my mind and not my heart. But it's like, yeah, like I just want to make that distinguishment. Love to bro Dre, but it was also people that were just as influential in my life and in my career as Dre was in teaching me professionalism in the music business.
Well, did you think those people gravitated towards you because they saw your attitude, that you were willing to learn, that you weren't coming in with an ego, and that you were like, you know what, now that I've realized I have a lot to learn? Do you think that was why a lot of people were giving you the time of day and giving you the lessons that they'd learned?
Yeah, man. I'm a sponge. I don't have an ego, man. Like, and I like to think that being from Flint, Michigan, we just give off an authentic aura. And so with me, anytime I'm in the room, how could I forget? Royce the 5'9" also is another one, and DJ K Slay. So I can't forget them as well. But I think that, yes, what they saw in me was just somebody that wanted to learn. When I'm around somebody who's done something longer than me and has more information about it than me, I just shut up. I'll ask questions when it's necessary, but it's like, I want to learn. It's like, I look at people like all those people I named, like, you've been here a long time for a reason. So there's obviously something that that I haven't learned yet, and I still could learn. Every day is something we could learn. You're never done learning. If you ever get to that, what is it? They say, a man knows everything when he realizes he knows nothing. So every day I wake up like, what am I going to learn today? I'm always looking to learn. So yeah, I think that they could see, because I was always just quiet. And even still to this day, with everything I've been through, whenever I'm around DJ Paul, whenever I'm around Royce the 5'9", whenever I'm around K Slay or any of these people or Kelly Price, it's normally just me sitting there like a school kid, and I'm just listening. you know? So yeah, I think that they kind of just caught the vibe that I want to learn, that I don't want to be a know-it-all. I don't want to stand in my own way, and that there's always something to be learned so that I can go teach the next generation.
Well, there is a saying as well that like always be the dumbest person in the room. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
You're in the wrong room.
That's such a profound saying, because it's like, be careful of chasing the ego. Like, to me, it really goes, don't ego chase. Don't try to be in the room where you're the smartest, because that's where you don't learn. That's where you just get the ego stroked. Everyone's impressed by you. But then you go to a room where you're not the smartest and you have your opportunity to really grow. And I think that's so important for especially artists. And, you know, I still learn that lesson where I like my ego stroked, where people like, yeah, you're doing a good job. And then I have to be like, but I'm not even close to where I need to get to. And that drive for always improvement, that's what's going to get you to where you need to go.
Absolutely. I have the toughest time. My crew get on me about it, but I have the toughest time accepting compliments, like, because I'm always striving to get somewhere else. So I can 100% agree with that, man.
Well, why do you think that is? Like, I know you're very motivated, you're very down to earth, but why do you think that? Because you take on feedback really well. It's so interesting. You take on feedback so well, but you don't take positive feedback because you're like, is it because you think you might get complacent? Like, what is it that you think?
Well, like I said, man, the biggest reason for that is because of my spirituality. Because I, you know, not to get too deep on y'all, but the answer to the question, you know, you asked me a very specific question and there's a very specific answer, is that I truly believe that anything that I'm doing as this vessel, I'm being allowed to do by a higher power. So I feel like if I'm accepting so many compliments, I'm not giving respect to the universe, to God, to Allah, I'm not giving respect to that spirit that's allowing me to do it. I feel like it's very arrogant of me to be like, I did this and I did that, when, you know, I could wake up and my voice is gone tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? I could wake up and be deaf tomorrow. I could wake up tomorrow and be crippled or something. So I'm being allowed to do these things. So, you know, Dre used to have a picture on the wall in the studio and it said, your ego is not your amigo. You know, and I believe that. And so for me, spiritually, I think that's why, like, I'm cool with accepting, hey, Connor, I like that song. But when it comes to just someone just repetitiously giving me like a compliment, I start to feel like I start to feel selfish, or like I'm not giving enough respect to the universe that's allowing me to be able to do what I'm doing. And, you know, I'm just a vessel. And so that's truly the reason why I can't accept compliments. It's like, okay, thank you. But even when, and not to just ramble, but even when I'm creating in the studio, I don't write lyrics down, right? So when I'm sitting in front of the microphone, these words are just coming out of nowhere. And some of the times I'm saying shit that I feel like I'm not that smart. Where the fuck did that come from? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how the fuck, like, what? Like, you know, and so it's like, I do believe, you know, there's a higher source that is allowing me or giving me the opportunity to be able to do what it is that I'm doing and live the life that I'm living out. So it's like, I don't want to take all the credit, because there is like I say, whether you call it the positive energy, the divine Holy Spirit, Allah, God, the creator, whatever name you want to put on it, I feel like there's something far greater than us that deserves the majority of the credit, and we just get to live it out.
That's really interesting. I mean, I think we've all had that, where you say a word and you're like, holy shit, I didn't even know that word existed. It came out of my mouth. And like, you're like, did I even use that word correctly? Because I don't know how.
Right. There's a fact, man. So for me, that's where my issue with taking compliments comes in at. It's like, I can accept, I really like that song. It's like, oh, cool. But when it's like, yo, Connor, you are the greatest, this, and I get a little uncomfortable. And I know it's coming from a good place, so I'll accept it. But it gets a little uncomfortable for me, because I always feel like I got to give praises to the Most High, man.
Do you know, it reminds me of a date that I went on recently, and she was complimenting me the whole time. And it made me insecure, because I'm like, I've gone on enough dates to know that I don't deserve compliments every 30 seconds. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it started to make me feel like I feel like you're telling me these things because you think I don't believe it. And now I'm starting to doubt it. And it's just like, it's a weird vicious cycle. And I was just like,
Exactly.
one compliment is enough. And then let's just talk like normal people.
Right. You see, there's something in receiving too many compliments that naturally makes us as human beings feel uncomfortable. And I don't know what that is. I don't know. Like in your situation, in my situation, there's something there that when we receive too many compliments, it makes us uncomfortable. So for me, I just go the spiritual route and be like, you know what? I'm taking too much credit away from the divine source. So I'm a little uncomfortable right now. Thank you so much. I thank you for saying that because you mean it with all good intentions, but I'm a little uncomfortable right now.
Well, I mean, my attitude is if you like it, buy it and listen to the podcast. That's all I need. Like I can live without, like, I like knowing that it's important or that things like impact you. But at the same time, it's like too much of that. And you start to lose sight of what reality is. And I feel like that happens a lot to various people, is like just where reality sits.
I think you may have figured it out. If you get too many compliments and you start believing in it, then who are you becoming then? If you're this person that's just walking around like, yeah, I am the greatest. Yes, I am the best. Yes, I am this. Yes, I am. Who are you now? And I don't know that that's a good thing if you start buying into your own hype. So maybe that's why we all get uncomfortable if the compliments get to be too much, because then we start teetering on that other side where ego is in control now.
And I think everyone has a certain realization of like what they really are. Like, you know what I mean? I think we all know, like, if you keep saying I'm good looking, I know that I'm not bad looking, but I also know that I'm not the best looking. Right. So it's like, I'm not going to, like, if you do it all the time, I'm going to be like, okay, you're now just catering to my ego and I don't believe a word you say. And now I'm convinced you think that I'm ugly. And it's going to be the opposite result. So it's just, I think that's just how our minds work, really.
I agree. I think we might have cracked the code. We might got a team co-author a book together, man. We might have cracked the matrix, man.
That'd be awesome. I think a dream come true if I got to actually write a book with any artist that I spoke to. I think you'd do the heavy lifting. I'm an ideas man, where I said to the other day, I'll come up with weird ideas, but then after that, someone needs to help me put them together, because then I'll get lost in the middle of what
I can dig it, man. Well, it's funny. I'm writing a book, man. It's called Tales of a Tumbleweed. I hope people dig it. It's going to be just, I got a lot of crazy pictures from just all of the years I've been in show business. And they're pictures with people that you wouldn't necessarily think that I've been, around or I've encountered. Like, it's a picture of me and Dre playing cards in the studio, right? That's not a picture that people have even ever seen, or just something you wouldn't think. And there are these little stories that I'm going to tell about the picture and how that relationship or that time period affected my life. So, just wanted to throw that in there while we just talked about and joked about writing a book. Tales of a Tumbleweed, I'm actually writing right now, man.
Do you have an eye of when the release will come?
You know what? Probably middle to end of next year.
I think that'd be an awesome book to have and to read, and just literally flip through and just see all the stories and all the unique moments that you don't, associate a lot of people with.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Like, it's crazy. It's I got this picture, is me and Raven Simone at like this art exhibit, and it was so funny because I got a niece and she loves Raven Simone because she grew up on That's So Raven. And she looked at the picture and like, that's Raven Simone. Oh my God. And like, she was just really tripping. She like, Uncle Deucey, why do you know Raven Simone? And it's a cool story like behind how I ended up at this little art presentation that we were at. But yeah, I got so many pictures with people that you wouldn't expect me with. That is hilarious. And I thought, like, maybe people would like to see this and just hear how these certain times in my life impacted me.
Yeah, I think they definitely will. I definitely do. And I just love that, even you saying that your niece calls you Uncle Deucey, like those little like things that I've never heard before, or like just those slight insights into your life outside of, artist version, all that stuff is so cool to me.
Oh man, I appreciate it. Yes, I'm Uncle Deucey. Whenever I'm around, whenever I'm around my nephews, man, I'm Uncle Deucey, man.
Well, man, I know that we have a bit of a time limitation. Your assistant is 100%. She's on it. She's so professional. I'm super impressed. But I only have one more question for you. It's probably the hardest question that you're going to get asked. But if you had to recommend one album that everybody should listen to, can't be your own, doesn't have to be hip hop, can be any genre, what would it be?
Easy. That wasn't even hard. Seal, too. The second Seal album. I can recite that album from front to back. I've been listening to that record since 1995 when it first came out. I probably could, if I had to write out the lyrics to every song on that album, I could. It is still the album that influenced me and inspires me the most to this day. I think it is so musically, it was ahead of its time to me. Lyrically, I think that, man, there's so many powerful messages in that album. I work out to that album. Whenever I'm stressed out, I go to sleep to that album. Ever since I was 12, 13 years old. Seal, the 2 album, the one with Kissed by a Rose and Dreaming in Metaphors, like Prayer for the Dying, Bring It On, like all of these records that's on there. That one album is probably the most influential album in my life personally. So Seal's second album.
Well, you're the first person to mention Seal, and what I love about that question is literally albums that people never think of get mentioned. It's amazing. Like, to me, I'm like, I would have never guessed. There is no way for me to guess that the Seal's second album would be your pick. And, you know, you're lucky because a lot of people, that question stumps them. They have to think about it and they get caught between 2 choices, but no, you'll go down in the record books for definitely one of the fastest answered.
Yeah, it's sometimes tough because I'm a music guy and there's so many albums that I love, but there's, without a doubt, there's no question, any genre, any album that influenced me and inspired me, like Seal's second album. I think it's called Seal 2. And yeah, it's the one with Kissed by a Rose and, like I say, Dreaming in Metaphors. Like I say, I still listen to that album to this day for inspiration on production and just as a songwriter and just any way you could be influenced by an album. That one album, I've been listening to that shit since nonstop since 1995. So, like I say, yeah, Seal's second album.
Well, we're coming up to 27 years listening to the album straight. So if that doesn't convince you to go listen to it, I don't know what will. But obviously, Jon Connor, appreciate you coming through. Appreciate everything that you've shared with us. We talked about literally everything under the sun. And I feel like we could just keep talking forever. We're both talkers and
we got to do this again sometime, man. I got a lot of music coming out, man. So we got to make sure we do this again.
100%. And I hope you get to tour down in Australia at some point as well. That'd be awesome to see you come out. Who knows what's going on? Every day it seems like something's new is happening, but definitely, yeah, I feel like we could do like an 8-hour podcast, beat Joe Rogan and his whatever. I don't know how he does it. He talks for so long. But yeah, absolute pleasure for you to come through. And I love when you ramble. I feel like you find thoughts when you talk. It's kind of cool. So if anyone ever says to you, stop rambling, I'm going to be always like, keep rambling, because you just find the next thing. And that's the insightful part to me.
Well, thank you so much, man. I'm not going to start rambling, but it's just that I try to be very particular about what I say. And I think about what I say before I say it so that I'm never, if you think about what you say before you say it, you never have to worry about taking anything back or, regretting anything that you say. So it's like you said, it's like almost you watching it happen in motion. Like I'm trying to make sure I mean everything I say and that I'm saying exactly what I mean. But it is such a pleasure, man. And I thank you for having me, man. I hope that I do get to Australia because I would love to see it. I've only seen pictures and it looks so beautiful over there, man. So I would love to come over there. And yes, we got to do this again. Go to all of your listeners. I just dropped a tape. It's called Delirium. go to my Instagram page at Jon Connor Music and click the link. It will take you to my link tree where it has the Jon Connor merchandise, the new mixtape we just put out, Delirium, that's setting up for SOS2, that's coming in January. I just dropped a song yesterday called To Whom It May Concern, where I kind of closed the book on the whole aftermath chapter of my life, for all of the people that wondered what happened, or all of the fans that was wondering what went down. I think that I addressed it in the most classy way that I possibly could. So go check that out. My artist Ace Cabana, his project is coming in March. It's called Moonwater, and I produced the majority of the project. And then I got a docu-series called The Road to Legendary that shows my journey from high school all the way up to now. So it's so much stuff, man, we're gonna have to talk about that's coming soon and that's already been released. And I just thank you for the opportunity, man. I thank you for the opportunity of letting me spread my message, man.
A pleasure. The phone was deciding as well as it was falling that it was time to wrap it up. But yeah, definitely check him out. And, you know, I just want to say as well, props goes out, because the way this was set up actually was I actually asked you to be part of the mailing group to get updates. So if you want an artist who is definitely keeping his fans up to date, definitely do that. And we said he's working on a book, so that'll drop as well. But absolute pleasure. I'm looking forward to doing this again. And then we'll see what happens. It's unscripted, so who knows what we'll talk about. But yeah, this was awesome.
Absolutely. Well, let's do it, man. Such a pleasure, man.